Learn how to create, sustain, and scale up your print-on-demand business with the latest tips, guides, and strategies to help you start selling and making money today. Welcome to the Sales on Demand Show. And here's your host, Adam Schneider.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Sales on Demand Show, episode 47. Today I've got listener questions and my vision for the year 2020. Ha! See what I did there? See what I did? I made a joke. Alright, well, let's get started. So, currently, it's 2020. This is the first official episode of 2020. Because we're not counting that last one as 2020. Remember I said that it was going to be December 31st, 2019? Well, there you go. The first real episode of 2020. I am currently a tiny bit sore in the muscles. The Army is, they want me to feel pain, so they keep making me do hard things like march in the cold, but I mean, that's kind of why I joined the Army, is because I wanted to feel a little bit of pain. I mean, there's always a little bit of the desire to be in pain in every soldier. Apart from that, I'm launching new designs. I decided this is going to be the year that I'm really going to get on top of each holiday as it comes and start launching really good designs. And I'm just getting ready to add them to my platforms so that they're ready to go when the buying starts. So it's currently the 12th of January. I don't think there's some people shopping for Valentine's Day gifts. You'll find, one or two here and there, but I mean the real buying will start on probably just a little bit before the beginning of February. So you need to be ready for that. That's going to come very quickly, and it's going to be a very short buying season, maybe like a week and a half, where there's going to be a lot of sales if you have the products available. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm going to experiment with some new products. I'm going to add some blankets and throw pillows. So the blankets are a new product on Gear Bubble, and throw pillows, there's a lot of suppliers that have throw pillows. I'm probably going to use Printful. They have a very nice Etsy integration that's actually free. Printful they're a pretty reliable platform. They charge a little bit more per product than some of the other platforms, but they also have an integration that is free to use. So that's why I like them, because they're just sort of a backup, and they're a very big supplier, so they have a good system. So I'm going to experiment with that. There's a little bit of technical challenges with the blankets. Because they're so big, you need a much larger design file. When I make coffee mugs, I use a 900 by 1050 pixel design file. And that's big enough for a coffee mug. You can, there's no pixelation or anything on the design. It looks really good when it prints, but since a blanket is huge, some of them are like bigger than two of me put together. I mean, I'm not that big, but if you spread me out, I would be less than a blanket. Because it's so much bigger, I got to use Photoshop. So I don't use Photoshop for design work because it is a very advanced program, and I'm just not really an advanced designer. So I'm going to have to figure out if I can create the program on PicMonkey and then move it into Photoshop and make it a little bit bigger. PicMonkey, their size is limited, so I can't use it. I have to use Photoshop. So, in other news, FBA is quiet on Amazon, but that is pretty normal. I don't know what this year is going to look like. We could have a recession this year. That's entirely up to probably the Chinese. If they start selling off U.S. bonds, then the U.S. will probably get into a recession. And then if we get into a recession, Donald Trump probably will lose the presidency. But if not, and he keeps it going till November, we'll probably have a pretty decent Christmas. Depending on who gets elected president. I mean, that will kind of be one of the determining factors. I'm definitely keeping my eye on it, because there'll be lots of opportunities to make interesting products based on who wins the presidency. And so it doesn't matter who wins for me, because I'm going to make some money off it. And you should be thinking this way too. Don't worry about who's in charge, because we're going to monetize that no matter what. So today, I am dragging out my cachet of listener questions. I do get a decent amount of private messages, comments, and stuff on the show notes pages, the website, the Facebook. A lot of people just private message me on Facebook. That's totally fine. If you've got a question and you're like, I really don't know how else to ask it, you can private message me on Facebook, and I'll probably talk to you. I've got one guy that, we're back and forth all the time talking about designing and stuff like that. He's part of another group that I'm part of. He's sent me some interesting stuff. I sent him some interesting stuff. It's fine. I don't mind that. It doesn't take up a ton of my time. You may not get a reply right away, and sometimes if I reply, I will send you a link to a show that I've done that answers your question. But if your question is unique, I may keep it as a future listener question episode. So I do get a lot of these, and they're not all listener questions. Sometimes they're questions that I get from people on the Facebook page of the Low Hanging System. But I thought I would answer, and I've got 8 of them here. So some of them are like basic stuff, some of them are more advanced stuff. So if you're, whatever category you fall into, have a listen. Maybe you'll find an answer for something that you didn't even know you had a question. So the first question, and I get this one directly, and sometimes indirectly, meaning I see this question being asked. Somebody says, should I make a design that says blah, 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 blah? Or they will send me a link and they're like, do you like this design? Like, can you comment on this design? Do you like it? Do you think it'll sell? Do you think it's good? And honestly, beyond just sort of analyzing to see whether the spelling is correct and the font is readable, I never really review designs. What I think you need to work on more than design is titles and tags for Etsy. Because if once you get doing this for a little bit, you can make designs that are perfectly fine. But whether they'll sell or not is completely up to the marketplace. If you see a phrase and you're like, I think that phrase will sell, make a design on it. I don't care if it's the stupidest, most idiotic phrase. Those are the best ones. If the design looks ugly, who cares? Just launch it. Just do it. Don't ask, should I? Just do it. Get in there and make that design. And, if you want some help with titles, I do have an episode on how to make titles on Etsy. Really, it's Etsy titles, they just need to be a whole bunch of keyword phrases sort of joined together, whereas Amazon, you don't repeat words, you just put the target, who it's from, sort of, and then that's it. On Etsy, it is quite a bit different, and then you need to do the same thing with your tags, and so on and so forth. That's why listing on Etsy is super tedious, and I'm not a huge fan of the listing part. But once you get a good design up, you don't have to relist it. So that's nice. So number 2 question, do you have any tips for designing necklaces? This was a specific question to me. Necklaces sell amazingly well on Valentine's Day. They sell best with paid traffic on Facebook. There is a guy, and I'm not an affiliate for him, so if I tell you about him, I'm not making any money. His name is Will Hamerl, and he runs a site called ppc-coach.com. I'll put that in the show notes for you. I'm not making any money off this, so you know I'm telling the truth. He is just a master at necklaces. He makes probably most of his money from print on demand from necklaces. It is much easier to sell higher priced items that are low cost for you using paid traffic. It's hard to sell coffee mugs using Facebook ads. Your margins are pretty thin. Realistically, you can only really charge about between $20 and $22, sometimes less for a coffee mug, including shipping. Maybe $25 with shipping. And that doesn't leave you a lot of room to charge, the customer and run paid advertisements. So I have done paid ads with mugs. I made maybe a bit of money, but necklaces, they are much higher margins. But you need to have a much fancier design. But even then, the fanciness of the design is not really as important as what the phrase is. So for designing necklaces, and that is the small sublimated full color necklaces that you'll find on gearbubble.com, super, super, super mushy. So like sentimentally and syrupy. You want your teeth to ache when you read that phrase on there. You want to be like, oh my gosh, there's a tear in the corner of my eye when you think about giving it to your daughter or your son or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whatever, your husband. Necklaces are a very, you do not need to design them only for women. They are great gifts for men too, from women. So don't restrict yourself, and even from men to men, like father to son. That's actually a very popular niche for necklaces, and they sell really well with paid ads. You can also list them on Etsy, and you can list them on Amazon too. I wouldn't expect too much from Amazon, and you do need to have a different GTIN for necklaces. And sometimes you'll get some errors from Amazon because the background won't be the right color. I don't know. I don't do a lot of necklaces on Amazon, but you can work through those little problems if you really want to list them on Amazon. But necklaces do sell pretty decently on Etsy. Just start listing them. I have created, I've played around with designing necklaces. I'm not super good at it, again, but I've sold a few. And I've paid for some designs from Fiverr designers. And actually, they gave me some fantastic looking designs. It's just that if you want to make a lot of money on paid traffic, you need to be consistent. So you need to be launching new products all the time. You need to be testing new phrases. And you need to be, anything that doesn't sell, drop it. And that's hard to do for a lot of people. And it costs money, but you can make a lot of money too. If you don't want to do that with paid traffic, list it on Etsy. All right. So number 3 question is, how do I deal with taxes or sales tax? All right. So taxes, that's pretty easy. You can be a sole proprietor, and I'm talking about income tax. So here in Canada, I had a sole proprietorship, and I just basically recycled it from when I had a farm, used the same business number. I had a GST number. GST is sales tax here in Canada. And I would just file a return every quarter and list any Canadian sales that I made. Because I had a GST number, I had to file a GST return. If I didn't have a GST number, then I wouldn't have to file a return, and I wouldn't have to charge GST until I reached a threshold of sales. Now, if you live in Canada and you're selling to Canadians, then you might have to contend with that. I'm selling to Americans, and I don't live in the U.S. I don't even worry about sales tax. I know for a fact that on 99% of the states, I haven't reached the minimum threshold of sales to trigger the sales tax. In Canada, I think it's $20,000 in sales that you need to reach before the government demands that you file GST returns and collect GST. So imagine that in each state. Each state will have a minimum, and many states are now just making Etsy and Amazon collect sales tax, and then Etsy and Amazon send the sales tax. You don't have to worry about it at all. I honestly have not even worried about sales tax. I file my Canadian sales tax. It takes like 2 seconds. Most of the time, I have enough expenses to cover that, so I don't have to actually pay any sales tax. So just don't worry about it until you have like over let's say your home state. If Amazon and Etsy aren't collecting sales for your home state and you get over 200 sales in your home state, then file taxes in your home state. If you have over $200 or 200 sales or 100,000 in sales for any of the states that don't collect sales tax through Amazon, that's the marketplace facilitator tax, then start filing tax. That's per state though, okay? So the threshold is pretty high. 200 sales per state usually. So I don't know. Hawaii is a bit weird. I don't even worry about it. Because I don't live in the U.S., what are they going to do? They going to walk up here and take the money from me? No, of course not. Basically, the states, the only option they have to enforce sales tax on Canadians or people outside of the country is to force Amazon and Etsy to collect it. And that's what they're doing, which is fine. I don't care. Do what you want. I mean, it will cut into my overall sales because people, they won't have a lot of money to spend and they might not buy as much. But at least it takes away a lot of the hassle for me. All right, so number 4, how do I start doing this? Question number 4, how do I do print on demand if I don't have a lot of money? Well, that's an easy one. Start with Etsy, right? Amazon, it is not very easy to do well and scale up if you don't have any money. Amazon is way easier to do in terms of how much little fiddling you need to do with each listing. You don't need to fiddle at all, in other words. Etsy, you need to sort of like fiddle and research keywords to make the most impact. Etsy customers seem to like customized mock-ups, whereas Amazon, you just launch it and forget about it. Etsy is great if you don't have money because they pay you pretty quickly. Amazon takes a long time to pay you, but you can make more money on Amazon. So if you're working on Etsy and you start to make money on Etsy, add Amazon right away. I do know a couple of sellers who are doing pretty good on Etsy and they still haven't added Amazon. And I'm like, what? Why? Come on, you're leaving money on the table. But yeah, no, I understand. You know, when you're first starting out, you probably don't have a lot of money. Start with Etsy. Just work it. Work it hard, man. You know, twerk that Etsy. All right, so number 5. Should I add more keywords on Amazon, change my titles, descriptions, etc.? I wouldn't. So, the only time I would ever do keywords on Amazon is if you have an FBA product that's already selling nicely and you want to improve the selling for that item. So adding more keywords, changing the description or changing the title can help a little bit if something is already selling, but this is why you need to get really good at making titles before you upload your products, because it is a pain in the arse to change any of these things on Amazon after the fact, particularly titles. Changing your title is really, really challenging. Amazon often will not accept your changes. Sometimes people have had to actually call Amazon and speak to a human being and try to get them to change the title. So make your titles really good right off the bat, and you won't have to change them. What I think you can do is create a condition and add a title there. If you want to make an FBA listing have a better title, you can create a condition on Amazon. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But just know that adding keywords on Amazon after the fact for anything that hasn't made a sale yet is probably worthless. And it's really a waste of time. I used to do it. I don't anymore. And that's how I have well over probably 6,000 listings on Amazon, because I don't waste time doing those things. And especially the description. Do you think that somebody reads the description of a coffee mug? Honestly, ask yourself that question. Would you read the description of a coffee mug, or do you assume, correctly, that it is, in fact, a coffee mug, and that it is made of ceramic, and that it is for drinking coffee? I mean, a description is usually for something that is sort of complex. Like, I was looking on Amazon the other day. I want to buy a costume for this anime festival. Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm an anime fan, somewhat. My kid is a massive anime fan, and I go to this festival, so I'm going to wear a costume. Definitely not what you probably expected to hear, but that is me. Now, that one probably would have a description, right? Because it's a complicated thing, it's a one-off thing, but it's a coffee mug we're selling. It's a t-shirt, or it's a travel mug. I mean, the picture shows you what you're getting, and nobody's going to read the description. Very few people read the description, and it doesn't really help your rankings to make a description with a bunch of keywords. In fact, it doesn't help it at all. Descriptions are irrelevant in terms of ranking. They don't add any SEO juice, if you know what that means. Basically, don't waste your time. So, all right, question number 6. This is actually a pretty intense question. It's very simple, but there's been a lot of debate around this, and you'll see why. So, should I have free shipping or not? So, both on Amazon and on Etsy, what I do is I charge $19.95 for a coffee mug, $24.95 for a travel mug, and $17.95 for a shot glass. When I add other products, I'm going to add them with the full price, and all of them will have free shipping. All of them will have free shipping. Now, some people charge $14.95 for the product and $4.95 shipping. That's actually really common. I know that the creator of the low-hanging system program, Rachel Raffay, she charges $4.95 shipping and $15 for the product, or $14.95. Which is better? I honestly don't know. I used to think that the free shipping was better, and for me, like, you know, if I know what I'm paying up front and I know that it's free shipping, that works for me best. But a lot of the top sellers do not have free shipping. And even on Etsy, where allegedly free shipping is a really big boost to your store or to your products, your listings, a lot of people are like, I lost sales when I had free shipping. And other people are saying, well, I didn't have free shipping, and then I added free shipping and I made more sales. Honestly, I don't think it actually makes a difference. It used to be that people on Etsy, they would charge like $12 for the product and then $8 for shipping. And people were paying this. Ultimately, I think people just know. I don't know. I honestly don't know. For me, I keep the free shipping because it simplifies my finances and I can actually see my real revenue. Because shipping doesn't get added to your revenue. It's just kind of like this behind the scenes revenue. When I look at my total sales on Amazon or Etsy, I want to see the whole thing. I don't want to see just the revenue minus shipping. Because shipping doesn't get added into those total sales. I mean, either way, charge at least $10 more for each item. And if you have more expensive items like blankets or necklaces or something, charge at least double. At least double. And sometimes higher. So if you've got like canvas prints, or something like that, charge a lot more because people will pay for those things. Okay? Charge enough money. And this goes to where people are always trying to lower their prices. Don't lower your prices. Do not lower your prices. It's not going to improve your sales. Some people say, well, I'd rather have slightly lower prices and more sales. But that's not how it works. I'm honestly telling you, that is not how it works. Your lower prices are not going to translate into more sales. The quality of your product is what determines your sales. Like, these are $20 products. Someone's not going to buy it because it's $18 versus $20. That's not really a big deal. If you notice that you're not getting as many sales as you used to, it's because your listings, the trends maybe are fading out on them or something like that. It's not because your prices are too high. Now, I know a lot of people go on Amazon, they're like, oh, coffee mugs are selling for like $11. You're not going to compete with those ones. Don't compete with Amazon listings. Make your own. Make good ones. Now, that'll sort of lead into question 7. People ask me, well, how many listings do you have? Because people want predictability. They want to know, if I make 3,000 listings, which will take a long time, by the way. If you want to have 3,000 listings, it's going to take you the better part of like a year and a half. I mean, if you work really hard in 1 year, you could probably list 3,000 items. If you just have somebody, and this is what other people have done, if you pay somebody to create designs, just very simple designs, you can reach 3,000 listings pretty quickly. But let me ask you, if you're paying someone to create designs, how good are those designs going to be? I mean, I always say that the quality of a design doesn't necessarily translate to more sales. But I mean, if you see an idea and it's a really good trending idea and you create a design on it, you spend a little time on it. Those listings tend to be higher quality and more desirable than just these throwaway listings where it's like world's okayest beekeeper or whatever. Those are what I call throwaway listings, where you're just gonna make 1,000 of them, and you're gonna put, instead of beekeeper, you'll put like nurse mom or emergency room nurse or just whatever those things are. Those do sell, by the way. If you find a niche that hasn't been saturated yet, and you can make a lot of money off one listing, but you got to make quite a few listings to get those good ones. So how many listings do I have? I get this all the time. People want to know how to get to my levels of sales. I have 100 good ones and about 5,500 duds. So I have 100 listings that sell and a bunch that don't. So don't worry. Listen, I cannot tell you how many sales you're going to get from 3,000 listings. You might get none. If you have 3,000 garbage listings, designs, you will get no sales from those. You can also make a lot of money from 10 good listings, 10 good designs. So focus on making good designs, and that will do you better than trying to just throw up like a whole bunch of trash. Now, do both, maybe. This is what I'm kind of doing. I'm going to do a bunch of what I call trash, but are really just like generic, listings for, dog breeds, cat breeds, whatever. And I've done that before. They don't take very much time. You can list a whole bunch in a short period of time. You may get a little bit of sales from that, but you won't get anything insane. The good ones, though, that I spend a little bit of time on, I get a lot more attraction from that. And sometimes I'll spend, 20 minutes creating design. And it'll be like relatively complicated with a lot of text, but it's also a clever idea that I thought of myself, right? And I can't really apply it to anything else. So that's kind of how you got to look at this. Don't look at this as I do X amount of work and I make X amount of money. You might do X amount of work. You might work for hundreds of hours and make nothing from it. You also might work for 10 hours and make $100,000 off of 10 hours worth of work. That's how this business works. And it really does work like that. with that amount of range in there. And that's why people are scared of this, because you're putting your time into something with no idea what you're going to get out of it. But once you start doing it and you start getting a few sales, you'll see where your effort is going. You'll see what makes the kind of things that actually have an impact, the 20% of things that you do that have 80% of the result. I talk about the 20-80 thing all the time. I have mentioned it before anyway. So that's what you need to focus on. Just make good listings. Don't make crappy ones. And you won't find out which ones are crappy until you make them. So, question number 8. And this is one that I've actually been asked by sort of family members. And I don't blame people for asking this question, because there's a lot of people out there that are struggling to find good work that they enjoy. And I was in this category just, only as far back as maybe a year and a half. I was like, I got to get out of this job. My job was like really grinding me down. And I needed a break. And so I was like, I need to make this my main job. And the question is, how quickly can I make print on demand my main job? So I've got 2 answers. The first one is, it'll take at least 1 year if you're smart and you're very business oriented. That's what I've seen from a lot of people who actually are doing this full time. It took them a year to get there. That's because you just need to build up this sort of bank of designs that are going to sell really well. Almost all of the people that are doing really well have some prior business experience, and many of them have experience selling print on demand in some other platform. And they just applied their experience to like Etsy. Actually, Etsy, people make a lot of money off of Etsy. A lot of the people who are doing, big numbers, they're doing them on Etsy. And they work at it like it's a job. I mean, they're sitting down, 8, 10, 12 hours a day working on their thing. And so they're, creating new designs and listing them every single day. They're researching new trends and creating designs around those trends. They're constantly updating their titles and tags. Etsy likes it when you do that. I don't know why. I hate that. Don't make me work. Man, I don't want to work. I got a bunch of stuff to do. I'm already working. I want this to be more passive income for me, so that's why when I make a listing, I put it up there, and if it sells, great. If it doesn't, well, take a hike. So for me, personally, I would like to ask the question, why do you want this to be your job? It's a very unpredictable amount of income. This is not a, $5,000 a month career kind of job. This is like you could make $10 in a month, or you can make $100,000 in a month. And a lot of that depends on work that you've done a year back or something like that. And it can go from, $5,000 to $30,000 and back down to $2,000 in a month. It's very unpredictable. So it's not a great job for people who have like a mortgage and payments and bills and stuff like that. But this is a very good side hustle, because if you follow my advice and focus on the 20% of things that make the biggest impact, you can spend very little time doing this. By contrast, let me share with you. So I joined the Army Reserve, and the Army Reserve has pay rates for their members, right? So for a half a day, I make about $46 for a half a day. That's anything less than 6 hours. For anything more than 6 hours, or for 24 hours, if it's like a weekend training, I make $100 for one 24-hour period. That's less than minimum wage. So now for print on demand, the amount of time I spend on this is maybe 3-4 hours a week of actual time, productive time, and I make significantly more money from that time than I do from, being in the Army. It's just that I like being in the Army, so that's sort of it's kind of like a hobby almost. I don't, that 3 or 4 hours that I spend working on my business, I'm kind of forcing myself to do that. And I like the money, but I don't necessarily enjoy the work, right? I don't really like sitting in front of my computer, typing in titles, and I like creating designs, actually. That's kind of the fun part. But when it comes to uploading them and listing them, I'm not really excited about that. So for me, I don't want this to be my full-time job because I don't really enjoy it. I don't find that the actual work itself really gets my motor running. I like to be outside. I like to be like breathing oxygen that comes from trees and not from air conditioners. I like to be walking around. I like to be either freezing or too hot. I don't care. I'm pretty flexible for the weather. Talking to people. So that's why I don't want this to be my full-time job. And I understand, for people who don't have a job, you're like, I really need some income. I'm going to be creating another episode on a bunch of things that you can do to earn money that are not print on demand. I got to do a little bit of research and find out if there's some new things out there. But I do have an episode on that. If you want to take a look at that, just look through my, past year. You'll see it right there. I haven't I haven't launched too many episodes. But this isn't something that you're going to turn into big money right away. This is something that you build up. Now, you can build it up quickly or you can build it up slowly, but it does take time to build it up. So that's my answer for that one. So I thought I'd share with you a little bit of my vision for 2020. See what I did there again? Yeah, okay, I'll stop making those jokes, I swear. In 2021, I'll stop making those jokes. Alright, so whenever you have a business, you need to operate with goals, and you need to have a vision of where you want to be, right? That actually applies to really any endeavor that you're, undertaking. So, let's say that you want to be out of debt. You need to actually have a vision of what out of debt means for you. So it might mean that you own a car that you don't have payments on, right? It doesn't just mean that I don't have any debt. It means that I own a house and I don't have a mortgage. It means I own this trailer and I don't have any payments on it. Whatever that means, you need to have a very specific vision. So for me, my specific vision is that I want to grow my business double this year. Okay, so that means I need at least 1,500 new listings. My vision is double, and the steps for me to get to that vision are 1,500 new listings, which means about 50 per week consistently, that's quite a few. However, I'm doing pretty good this week. I have 50 designs sitting in my little folder waiting to launch. And I am going to launch those on a bunch of different products. I may do even more than just drinkware. I may do t-shirts. I may do, pillowcases, whatever. I'm going to try to do some blankets, but those are harder designs to make because they're really big. Like I said. And my goal for fulfillment by Amazon is to get to 75 FBA listings. I'm not even halfway there yet. So I've got a ways to go. As far as the podcast goes, still rocking on this thing. A lot of people, when they start a podcast, they quit. For me, this is actually a load of fun. I would rather do this. If I could do podcasting full time, I probably would do that. So, I don't know. I would like to create a bonus course so that, if people are going to sign up with the low-hanging system training, which is the one program that I promote, I would like them to get some bonus content where I'm explaining how to go beyond the training that is provided there. But only doing that for people who get the link, I think, is a good idea. That way that there's an incentive. So you don't just get access to those people's brains, you get access to my brain too, and you get some secrets that I don't divulge on the podcast. So that is something I need to do. And I was talking last year about creating a big course on fulfillment by Amazon. That is still a possibility. I do need to scale it back because launching a course is actually a lot of work up front, and there's some things that have changed that I'd like to adapt. I haven't decided whether I want that to be a course that includes coaching or whether it's just going to be like a Facebook group or something like that. But I won't have time to do anything insanely big. I need to start a email list for the podcast because right now I'm sure I'm leaving money on the table by not communicating with my listeners with an email list. And I'd like to get some guests on. And I'd also like to be a guest on some other shows. And I know exactly what I'll talk about, so I'm looking to be a guest on some business shows talking about some of the things that I do. But I do need an email list before I do that, because why send people to listen to the show if I have no way to communicate with them with an email list? Email marketing, when you've got a content-oriented platform like a podcast, you need to be doing email marketing. You do. You absolutely need to. And the one guy that has taught me that this is a vital thing is Tom Woods, because he is a master at email marketing. And, when someone's doing something that's smart, you imitate that. All right, guys, that's it. Episode 47 is concluded. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time. Cheers.